Black Hour, Chapter 1, Smoke and Sparks. Chicago wasn't a city that slept. It simmered, a grid of steel veins and glowing windows, restless with a million stories breathing under one endless skyline. But tonight, something in the air was heavier than usual, tense, like the city was holding its breath. Lucas Coleman stood high above it all, perched on the ledge of a derelict high-rise in the south side. Below him, sirens screamed in the distance, bouncing off alley walls slick with rain. The metallic mask of his suit dimly reflected the city lights, eyes glowing a cool blue as his nanotech responded to a pulse of thought. He could feel the hum of the suit fusing tighter to his body, fluid metal locked to muscle and bone. Hex was awake. He scanned the rooftops, tracking two vehicles moving through red lights like they owned the streets. Gang cars, armed, fast. They were chasing something. Or someone. Triangulating, he muttered under his breath. The AI in his suit flickered a digital map across his HUD. Target acquired. Engaging. He didn't leap. He fell, and then, crack. Wings of molten black metal burst from his back, folding and unfolding midair as his suit shifted around him like a second skin. He hit the side of a building, kicked off a fire escape, and landed in the path of the chase. The gang cars screeched to a halt. Gun barrels slid out of tinted windows. "That's him!" one of them shouted. Hex didn't wait. The nanotech in his right arm unfolded into a blade, sleek, humming, alive. He dove forward, carving into the hood of the first car, disabling it instantly. Bullets pinged off his back. He turned, not to kill, but to disable. A pulse from his gauntlet fried their weapons. Another step, and he had them pinned with a magnetic net. 5 down. 1 left, trying to crawl away. Hex walked over, silent, except for the soft whine of the suit resetting. The man whimpered, "Don't kill me. Please." "I don't kill," Hex said coldly. "But I don't leave scars that heal easily either." The man screamed as Hex jammed an electric shock baton into his thigh. Non-lethal, barely. But enough to make him remember. He stood alone on the street for a moment, breathing hard behind the mask. The adrenaline was wearing off. And then he heard her voice. "Still out here playing cop?" He turned. Detective Serafina Cole stood under a flickering streetlight, trench coat soaked, hair clinging to her cheek. A cigarette dangled between 2 fingers, unlit. She looked tired, but her eyes, sharp and knowing, were locked onto him. "You know, one of these days, you're going to make a mistake," she said. Hex didn't reply. He never did. He just looked at her for a long second. "Let me guess," she added. "You'll say you don't kill—" "No," he said, voice low. "But sometimes I wish I could—" Their eyes locked across the rain-slick street. He turned and vanished into the night. Chapter 2, Ghosts in the Smoke. Lucas tore off the mask as soon as he hit the roof of the old auto shop. The city below still buzzed with chaos, but up here, there was peace, or something like it. The nanotech suit slithered off his body, folding into a black duffel like smoke collapsing in reverse. He ran a towel over his head, wiping sweat, blood, and rain from his face. The silence was broken by a voice in his ear. "You didn't kill them." "Again," he sighed. "We doing this now, Morpho?" The voice crackled. "Just saying. You're not going to save the city by tapping wrists and shocking knees. That's not how this game works." Lucas walked into the back of the shop, where a flickering old lamp lit a makeshift war room. Maps, schematics, missing person flyers, and dozens of screens showing every part of the city. He pulled a chair out and dropped into it with a grunt. "They'll remember pain," Lucas said. "Fear works better than funerals." A laugh buzzed through the comms. "Philosophical, that's cute. You know who doesn't care about pain?" A shapeshifter appeared behind him, emerging from a shadow like water turning solid. Morpho grinned, his body settling into a familiar form. Tall, dark-skinned, sharp-eyed, mischievous. Requiem. That psycho's carving chaos across the East Loop and humming lullabies while he does it. Lucas's face hardened. "What happened?" Morpho pulled up a screen. He hacked the news drone, hijacked the signal mid-broadcast, fed the city footage of you fighting the architect. Lucas's jaw clenched. That day, that battle, the one that still haunted his sleep. "He said you're the reason the city broke," Morpho continued. "Said you tried to play God and failed. He called you a pretty lie in a collapsing world." Lucas didn't speak. He didn't need to. His silence was heavier than any answer. Morpho dropped into the chair across from him, voice quieter now. "You know, I used to think you were a symbol, all that tech, the precision, the mystery. But you're still just a guy with too many ghosts." Lucas stood, walked to the window, looked out at a city still recovering, and then softly he said, "I didn't kill the architect." "Yeah, but you didn't save the city either." Chapter 3, Ember Rising. Elsewhere in the city, the night cracked with heat. Ember moved through flame like it was silk, her steps lighting rooftops, the air shimmering around her. Her eyes glowed gold, and the fire trailing from her fingertips pulsed with a rhythm only she could hear. She crouched beside a body. Another charred symbol burned into the concrete, Requiem's mark. A spiral, perfect and maddening, scorched into the street like a brand. Footsteps approached. She didn't look up. "He's not done," said a deep voice behind her. Vigil stepped into the light. The immortal man's long coat swayed in the breeze, eyes distant like he was watching centuries pass by in slow motion. "You shouldn't be here alone," he said. Ember stood, fire curling up her arms like armor. "I'm never alone." Their eyes met, a flicker of something unspoken, ancient love and endless restraint. "I thought you'd stopped caring," she said. "I can't stop," Vigil replied, his voice like gravel in regret. "I've tried. You make it impossible." She didn't respond, just turned and walked into the smoke. Chapter 4, Sparks and Static. Back in the workshop, Lucas tapped into the encrypted network. Velocity's voice buzzed into his ear. "Hey, boss man, you missed all the fun. I just ran a 6-mile sprint chasing a van full of gun runners. Caught him, tied him up, ate a donut, all in 90 seconds. Want to guess what kind?" Lucas smirked faintly, glazed. "Damn right, you know me too well." Her tone dropped. "But for real, Requiem's mark showed up again. He's getting closer. This isn't random anymore." Lucas nodded slowly. "He's trying to get my attention." "Yeah, well, he's got mine too. You ready to take the gloves off yet?" Lucas's fingers hovered above the gauntlet's console. His reflection in the screen looked tired, torn. "No," he said quietly. "Not yet. Then you better pray you're still fast enough when the city burns again." Chapter 5, Her Father's Shadow. Detective Serafina Cole stood alone in her apartment, walls plastered with crime scene photos, red string, and handwritten notes. The only sound was the soft jazz playing from a record player and the distant hum of traffic outside her window. Her eyes were locked on a holographic image projected from her watch. Hex, mid-action, grainy, and silhouetted in rain and neon. She exhaled slowly. "You're always one step ahead," she murmured. There had been 12 vigilante sightings in the last 2 weeks. Weapons disarmed, criminals webbed in strange black tech, victims alive, but terrified. She sipped her coffee and tapped her wrist again, pulling up Requiem's latest broadcast, a spliced clip of Hex fighting the architect. Buildings collapsing, civilians running, a moment where Hex could have stopped the collapse, and didn't. "He let it fall," Requiem's distorted voice said. "Your hero chose the mission over your lives, and you let him—" Serafina paused the recording, eyes narrowing. She remembered that day. The Black Hour, they called it now. The day half the city was left in rubble. The day her father, Chief Marcus Cole, declared war on all masked vigilantes. "You still watching those clips?" came a voice from the hallway. Her father entered, adjusting his cufflinks. He looked tired, but still carried the weight of authority like body armor. "I have to," Sarah said. "Something's not adding up." Marcus grabbed his badge from the table. "You're starting to sound like them." She turned to face him. "Like who? The ones who make excuses for criminals wearing armor and hiding behind moral high ground?" He stepped closer. "You know I trust you. But we don't need vigilantes. We need the law. We need order. And if the law isn't fast enough?" she asked softly. Marcus didn't answer. He just stared at her for a moment, then left the room in silence. She turned back to the screen. The shot of Hex froze, eyes glowing, cloaked in storm and guilt. "Who are you really?" she whispered. Chapter 6, Requiem's Design. In a forgotten subway tunnel beneath the East Loop, Requiem stood over a wall of chalk scrawls, blueprints, and newspaper clippings. Strings tied the moments of Hex's history together. His first appearance, his victories, his failures, the battle with the architect. Requiem's fingers trembled with excitement. His mask, a cracked porcelain smile, hung loosely from one ear. "They love you," he said aloud, pacing. "They worship you." His voice echoed against tile and dust. "But they don't know what. You've cost them. You let it fall. You let it fall." He stopped in front of a red circle. A photograph of a young girl. Hex's sister. "You couldn't save her." He tapped the photo. "But I will save them. From you." On the table beside him, a device blinked. A countdown. In 3 days, he would release the signal. An electromagnetic burst strong enough to fry every digital system in Chicago. No power, no police surveillance, no emergency response. No Hex, just chaos. "They'll see," Requiem whispered. "They'll see the cracks in your armor. When it all goes dark." Chapter 7, The Black Hour Flashback. 1 year ago, the city burned. Lucas, Hex, stood at the center of a collapsing plaza, his nanotech armor fractured and sparking. His HUD blinked warnings across his vision. The architect floated above the wreckage, suspended by a swarm of drones and cables. His voice, metallic and grand, rang out across the square. "I'm not destroying the city. I'm tearing down the lie that it was ever stable to begin with." Lucas gritted his teeth. "You'll kill thousands. I'll rebuild them into something better." Debris crashed all around. Screams echoed in the distance. Hex saw a group of civilians trapped beneath a collapsed bridge. He could reach them if he let the architect go, or stop the architect, and risk the lives of everyone under that rubble. 1 second. He chose the mission. The architect's core module shattered in his hands and the drones fell like rain. But the bridge collapsed. Lucas stood in the ruins holding the architect's core surrounded by the dead. And across the square, hidden in the smoke, a teenage boy, Requiem, watched it all, watched his sister vanish beneath the concrete, and watched the man he once admired walk away from it. Thank you. I'm honored you're loving it. Let's keep building momentum. Time to deepen the mystery, tighten the tension, and start assembling the storm. Chapter 8, Patterns in the Dust. Detective Serafina Cole stood in the cold blue glow of her office evidence board, a coffee in one hand and a tablet in the other. Her screen displayed one name, Requiem. No known identity, no fingerprints, no DNA, just sightings, messages, symbols. She flicked through footage, chaos, screaming, spirals burned into pavement. The same eerie chant playing behind every scene, distorted voices, twisted lullabies. Her stylist paused on an image. She zoomed in. There, in the background of one of Requiem's attacks, a symbol. Faint, but familiar. The same one found in drone footage from the Black Hour. Her heart dropped. You were there, she whispered. The sound of boots echoed in the hallway. She minimized the file as her father entered. You working Requiem? Marcus asked. She nodded. Off the record, he leaned on the edge of her desk, arms crossed. That lunatic's escalating. He's not just sending messages anymore, he's testing the city. Small disruptions, coordinated hits, bomb threats. We've got less than 72 hours before it becomes something worse. Serafina hesitated. He's connected to the Black Hour. I think he lost someone. And blamed Hex. Marcus's jaw clenched. That masked freak caused more destruction than any villain that day. Serafina didn't respond. She thought about Hex's silence, his pain, the things he never said when she confronted him. Maybe it wasn't destruction. Maybe it was a choice. A terrible one. One she wasn't sure she could have made any better. Chapter 9, No Rest for the Reckless. The rooftop was slick with rain, and Velocity bounced impatiently from foot to foot, blurring every few seconds as she zipped to one end and back. I'm just saying, she said into her calm, if y'all want to sit around and brood, that's fine. But Requiem's got his fingers in 6 different power grids and a message encoded in citywide radio bursts. Who else even thinks like that? In the alley below, Hex emerged from shadow. I tracked one of his decoy servers to a condemned hospital, he said. It's been offline since the Black Hour. Everything goes back to that day, Velocity muttered. It's like he's pulling thread from a wound no one stitched up. Hex nodded. Because that's exactly what he's doing. She zipped beside him, crossing her arms. You know he hates you, right? Hex said nothing. You're like his twisted mirror. And if this EM bomb he's planning is real, he wants to strip you of every advantage. He wants to see who you are without the tech. Then he'll find out, Hex said, and he won't like it. Chapter 10, The Signal Breeds Silence. Requiem stood inside the hospital's hollow chapel, light pouring through a shattered stained glass window. His fingers danced over a console cobbled from scrap tech and industrial salvage. The countdown blinked. 48 hours. The signal would detonate above the city from a weather balloon, creating an electromagnetic field wide enough to shut down every smart system in Chicago. Let's see who survives in the dark, he whispered. Behind him, an image of Hex glowed on a broken monitor. But this time, Requiem wasn't talking to him. He was talking to the city. You love your false gods, your silent knight, your steel messiah. But heroes die in silence. And after this, all you'll hear is... Me. Chapter 11, Firelight and Shadows. Ember stood in the ruined chapel of an abandoned church. A different one far from the chaos. Her fire kept the cold at bay, flickering along the edges of the pews. She was thinking about Vigil again, about his silence, about the way his eyes seemed to carry centuries of heartbreak and still lit up when he looked at her. You should tell him, came a voice. Morpho emerged from the rafters, shifting down from a hawk into human form. His face settled into something like a smirk, but Ember could always tell when he was masking sadness. I did once, she said. He didn't know how to answer. Maybe immortality doesn't leave space for love, Morpho replied. She looked into the flames. Maybe it's the only thing that makes eternity bearable. Let's go. The city's about to go dark, and every character's about to be tested in the rawest, most brutal way possible. Chapter 12. Blackout. The moment it happened, Chicago held its breath. Streetlights died. Power grids collapsed. Phones buzzed and went silent. Every screen blinked to black. Then, boom! A deep pulse rolled through the city like a heartbeat made of thunder. In an instant, tech failed. Cars crashed. Elevators stopped mid-floor. Air traffic vanished from radar. And then the signal began. A low hum, beneath hearing, beneath thought. But you could feel it, like pressure behind your eyes, in your bones. People screamed. Riots sparked. Looters moved like shadows. Sirens wailed and then vanished. The city fell into pure silence. Chapter 13, Powerless. Lucas Cole blinked awake in darkness. His suit, the nanotech armor he'd built to withstand gods, was dead. The suit had fused around him like metal skin, but now it hung limp, lifeless, unmoving. He was trapped inside it. System rebooting. Nothing. Emergency override. Nothing. Outside his apartment, people were shouting. Gunshots echoed in the streets. He slammed his fist into the wall and felt his ribs throb. The suit was offline, but he was still alive. Still breathing. You wanted me raw, he growled. Let's see what I've got left. Lucas reached for a crowbar and smashed open the back of the suit manually, piece by piece. It took him 5 minutes. It felt like hours, and when he stood, bleeding, sweating, unarmored, he was no longer Hex, just Lucas. And it had to be enough. Chapter 14, Fire in the Streets. Ember lit up the night like a second sunrise. Her flames roared against the cold silence as she moved through a mob near Navy Pier, protecting civilians, breaking apart looters. Her fire couldn't be hacked, couldn't be silenced. It was primal, but she was tired. Where is everyone? She shouted into the chaos. A familiar shape moved through the smoke. Long coat, eyes that had seen ages. Vigil. I was following your light, he said. You came, I always do. They stood back to back as the chaos closed in, flames and fists against the flood. Chapter 15, Ghost's Return. Across the city, in a lockdown precinct, Detective Serafina Cole was guiding civilians to safety by flashlight. The precinct's backup generators had fried. Radios were dead. Phones were bricks. Only one thing still worked, her instincts. She felt the shift before she saw it. A vibration in the ground, a pull in her gut. She turned, and there he was. Lucas. No armor, no mask, just bruises and fire in his eyes. You shouldn't be here, she said. Neither should you. She moved toward him, then hesitated. I thought you were... I'm not anyone right now, he said, and for the first time she saw him, really saw him. Not the myth, not the ghost in the nanotech. Just a man with guilt in his bones and a war behind his eyes, and still, her heart did a small, sharp thing in her chest. I found something, she whispered. Requiem's pattern. He's targeting the water plant. If he poisons the filtration lines... Lucas didn't hesitate. Show me the way, Chapter 16, the spiral's end begins. Requiem stood atop the water plant control tower, arms outstretched like a conductor preparing the final movement of a masterpiece. Below, the backup systems hummed. Old ones. Analog, immune to the EMP. He was old school when he needed to be. Cameras rolled. People of Chicago, he said into a salvaged newsfeed. Tonight, you will drink the truth. Taste the price of worshipping. A hollow god. Behind him, a tank hissed, filled with a neurotoxin strong enough to shut down every motor function in the body for hours. Not to kill, just to show how fragile they were. How human. He smiled and waited for Hex. Let's do this. The city is silent, the suit is gone. And now it's just Lucas, his pain, and the choice that defines him. Chapter 17. No mask to hide behind. The approach to the South Water Plant was a war zone. Windows shattered, fences torn down, sirens dead in the dark. Lucas and Serafina crept through the ruins, her flashlight low, his grip tight on a crowbar and a small EMP-dampened pistol, one of the few weapons that still worked. Lucas's knuckles bled. Every step echoed louder than it should. Does he know we're coming? Serafina whispered. Lucas didn't look at her. He's been waiting for this. They slipped through a maintenance tunnel, boots crunching on broken glass and fallen rebar. Every inch they moved closer, the spiral symbols became more frequent, spray-painted, carved, burned into metal. Spiral means rebirth, Serafina murmured, running her fingers along one of the symbols. In ancient cultures. Or madness. Depends who you ask. Lucas clenched his jaw. I'm guessing Requiem chose the second. As they reached the main control center, they heard it, a soft voice, echoing. Requiem, did you know trauma leaves scars in the brain? Real ones. Physical, like lightning burns in a forest. Some people heal, others grow in twisted shapes. Lucas stepped into the center of the spiral, and there he was. Requiem, wearing the cracked porcelain mask, surrounded by analog monitors and toxin tanks. Serafina raised her weapon. Step away from the release valve. Requiem tilted his head. I knew you'd come, Hex, he said, ignoring her completely. But not like this. You came as a man. Lucas didn't blink. That's all I ever was. Requiem laughed. Not manic, almost sad. No, you were more. Until you chose the city over her. A monitor flickered to life, showing footage from the Black Hour, the moment the bridge collapsed. A girl screamed, crushed beneath concrete. My sister, Requiem whispered. And I was right there. Lucas's voice cracked. I didn't see her. I couldn't. You chose the architect, Requiem said. You chose to save thousands. And left her to die. I understand. I do. But understanding doesn't erase pain. He stepped toward the release valve. Lucas raised the crowbar. Don't. I'm not going to kill them, Requiem said. But I want them to know what it feels like. To be helpless. To rely on a hero who doesn't come. Chapter 18, The Line in the Dirt. In a blur of motion, Lucas charged. Requiem dodged, spun, and struck with a blade drawn from his coat. Razor thin, poisoned. Lucas deflected it with the crowbar, grabbed Requiem by the collar, and slammed him into a control panel. Glass shattered. Blood sprayed. They fought like brothers. No tech, no tricks, just raw fists and fury. Serafina watched, gun raised but unsure, knowing if she missed, she could hit either of them. Lucas slammed Requiem into the floor, pinned him, raised the crowbar. Requiem smiled. Do it. Be the monster they think you are. Lucas's breath shook. He saw the broken boy beneath the madness, the pain, the rage, the mirror. I'm not your monster, he said, and dropped the crowbar. He reached for the valve instead and smashed the release mechanism, not to activate it, but to destroy it. The neurotoxin hissed harmlessly into the air, neutralized by emergency valves. It was over. Requiem collapsed beneath him, sobbing. Serafina moved in, cuffs shaking in her hands. Chapter 19. The silence breaks. Dawn cracked the sky in crimson and gray. The signal was gone. Power slowly returned. And across the city, screens flickered to life again. This time, not with Requiem's propaganda, but with live footage of Lucas and Serafina escorting him into custody. No suit, no mask, just a man who didn't run. The people watched in stunned silence. And then, slowly, they clapped. Chapter 20. Rebuild. Later that day, at the precinct, Chief Marcus Cole stood behind his desk, stone-faced as Serafina handed in her report. You protected civilians. You saved the city, he said. She nodded. But you let him go, he added, eyes sharp. You let Hex walk away. She didn't blink. Because he earned it. He stared at her for a long time, then sighed. There's a war coming, Marcus said. What you did might have bought us time, but not peace. She turned and left without answering. Epilogue. Sparks return. Back at the garage, Lucas sat beneath a tarp-covered suit, his tech still fried, half broken. But he wasn't broken. He wasn't whole either. He was becoming. Velocity, Ember, Morpho, and Vigil gathered behind him, quiet but proud. I'm not here to be worshipped, he said. Or feared. He looked out the window at the city waking up. I'm here because someone has to stand in the fire. And when the next battle comes, Hex will rise again.